Good evening and welcome to Thursday Night Live over here on the voicelessons.com Facebook page, YouTube page. I believe we're on Twitch now as well. We're hitting all the great platforms. So welcome. We are excited for tonight's show. We have a special guest tonight. We have Heather Lyle, author of Vocal Yoga, here to talk about her book, here to talk about the racking workshops. I met Heather at one of the PAVA symposiums. PAVA, if you don't know what that is, it's the Pan American Vocology Association. And before COVID, we were at a conference together in Seattle, Washington. And I picked up her book before. I wanted to learn more about what she was doing. And so I went over a 20-minute crash course workshop because that's what they were doing that year. And the next thing I know, I'm up against the brick wall being pulled in different directions, thinking my body's going to come apart. But I discovered some stuff about my breath that I hadn't felt before. And I felt all kinds of opening happening that I hadn't felt before. And so I was intrigued, and I thought it would be a great, time to have her come on and talk, since we're all probably feeling a little stiff sitting in our chairs all day, to learn more about stretching and whatnot. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really excited to be here.
Good. We're excited to have you here too. And if you want to check out and learn more about her, I put up a little bit about her bio up on the chat, but you can also check out vocalyoga.com and you can read her full bio. But she's a performer. She's performed every kind of music from Indian to Egyptian to opera, jazz, performed in all kinds of stages, opera houses, smoky, cafes of Paris, Great Pyramid in Egypt for an NBC special, which is pretty amazing. Been teaching, currently teaching at Arizona State University. She's been through the National Center of Voice and Speech program with Ingo Titsa, and studied many other modalities, and has merged them all together, which we're a big fan of here on the voicelessons.com show, is talking about how we can integrate all kinds of different practices. And so we're excited to talk about what she's been doing to merge these practices of yoga and voice. So as always, you can pop in any questions you have in the chat. We'll be monitoring those and bringing them up. And welcome. So
thank you.
Let's just jump into it. So talk to us about, you have an interesting path where you've been practicing yoga, I think actually longer than you've been singing, right?
Not necessarily, but the two and two together.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about it, because this is a family.
Sure.
Right?
Okay, so I actually, my father spent 17 years in an ashram in southern India. And so yoga was something I was introduced to very young. And I had bad scoliosis as a kid, and as a teenager, it really presented quite badly. So I really decided to dive into yoga very seriously at 14. And it cleared up my scoliosis. It gave me good posture. I felt great. And so literally since 14, I've had a yoga practice. And it's also the philosophy of yoga is something that I live my life by. So that was something that was introduced quite young. And the philosophy of yoga quickly is really a lot of mindfulness, being of service to others at all times, reducing the ego and finding the more part of yourself that is pure and sincere, and just trying to live a life basically of service, of helping other people, bringing joy to the world. And that's what I try to do with my work. That's
great. So I'm curious, because we get people that write in and have questions about scoliosis. Did the yoga help?
Absolutely, tremendously. Yeah. And we've actually found, because I've studied yoga therapy as well, if you work with a yoga therapist, you can improve your scoliosis a lot, because there's usually people have scoliosis to one side. If you do, there's certain postures that strengthen the other side of the body and pull the spine over and help to straighten it out. So I'm a huge proponent for yoga for scoliosis.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've had some singers in the past, and I've always thought that it was made sense. So it's great to hear that other people are actually applying it. So tell us, because you do have such an interesting past as a singer, doing all kinds of different styles. Tell us a little bit about your singer journey.
Sure. So I decided I wanted to be a singer at 3. I told my mother that. And my parents were in the arts. She's a writer. My dad's an artist. So she said, okay, great. So she really encouraged me. And I started playing guitar at 11. And then I just played for everybody. I mean, they couldn't get rid of me. I was always playing guitar and singing my songs that I wrote. And then when I went to college, I majored in music at Sonoma State in Northern California. And I spent most of my college years playing in all the coffee houses of the Bay Area as a singer-songwriter predominantly. And then I got into bands. And from there, of course, in music school, you only study classical music, right? At the time, especially when I was going to school, there were no other options. So I was a singer-songwriter out at night playing in clubs and cafes, and then singing opera in school. And then I ended up studying with Louise Caselotti, who was one of the teachers of Maria Callas, and she really pushed me towards opera after college. And so I ended up auditioning for all these opera companies, sang a lot of opera, a lot of oratorio, and then did a lot of kind of classical singing all over the place. And then I had actually, unfortunately, at 34, when my opera career was really starting to feel like it might go somewhere, I went to sing one day and I opened my mouth and nothing came out of my mouth, literally nothing but air. And it turned out I had a tumor in my chest that was pressing on the laryngeal nerve to the vocal cords. And thankfully, singing saved my life, because it would have pressed on my windpipe and aorta, major aorta of the heart. And I would have been dead in about a week had I not been a singer. So singing saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's really cool.
Obviously, the doctors fixed that and they healed you.
Yeah. I got healed, but I had a 10% paralysis to one of my vocal cords, which I still have, which killed my high notes. So that killed my opera career. So what happened is, as I was recovering, all my friends that worked in studios said, come and sing in the studio. Let's do some film scoring together. So I ended up doing studio work and film scoring. That's how I ended up in Egypt in the Great Pyramid. I wrote the score for this NBC special with a friend, and the producer said, it would be a lot better if you sang in the actual pyramid, and we recorded it and then we put that in the soundtrack and there would be this mystical quality. So I said, sure, I'll go to Egypt, sing in the Great Pyramid. And then my mom actually was an agent for jazz musicians in the 40s and 50s and hung out with all of the greats of the time. And so I decided, my husband is a jazz drummer, and so I grew up in jazz, and that just seemed like the right place to kind of end up in. So I started singing jazz, I guess, over 20 years ago, and sang for many years with an 8-piece jazz band that we had called called the Blue Cat Express. And we played with on the same stage as Herbie Hancock and all sorts of great people. And so I've had a great time, even though I've had some little mishaps health-wise.
But that's what an amazing story. And obviously it's got to have an impact on your teaching as well, having gone through something like that. The connection with your students.
Well, it has, and what it has also led me down the path of voice science. So since I became really curious about the actual vocal mechanism, and I was scoped all the time by the top doctors here in LA. So I would be looking at my cord, because originally it was quite paralyzed, and that's why I couldn't sing. And then they reduced the paresis. But then I became interested, I went back to get my master's, and they let me do all my electives in the speech pathology department when I went back to school, because it didn't make any sense for me to do all the performance electives since I had already been an actor, I'd already been a performer. Yeah. They said, you can skip those and you can do all the speech pathology things. And hence that led me down the world of going and studying with Ingo Tietze and Johann Sundberg's course and turning into a complete voice science geek. Found out that I love Cadaver Lab. Who knew? But
that's awesome. If you ever end up in Virginia, you have to come check ours out. Dr. Meyer, who runs our voice lab, is loves to go over there, and we're lucky that they let us go in there and really explore and help our students connect. The doctor.
Your students get to go in there?
Yeah, they do.
That is so amazing, and I really feel important because I'm a firm believer of teaching from an evidence-based, from evidence-based methods.
Yeah, us as well.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
Story. So along that way in your book, I think you mentioned that Louise, who was your teacher, was the one that connected the yoga, right, to the voice?
Well, yeah. So when I studied with her at 24, and I'd always been playing around with just singing while doing my yoga practice. And she was actually really into yoga, not so much the physical aspects, but more of the philosophy of yoga. And she talked a lot about how it would be great if they were connected, but she hadn't actually done it. So that led me down the path of starting to figure out how to connect actually voice and yoga. And what happened is, which you probably noticed, once I started teaching, okay, so somebody comes in and I'm supposed to teach them to sing, but they don't speak well.
Yeah.
So I have to work on their speaking voice as well because they should be connected. But then once I discover their speaking voice, I learn that they don't know how to breathe. And they can't let their abdominal muscles go or any of their core go because they're in such a state of fight or flight. So then I had to study the nervous systems, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, to see what's going on. Why are they such in fight or flight? Why can't they breathe? And when I discovered learning about fight or flight, I learned that the body naturally armors and holds its breath and lets go all day long in response to physical stimuli and emotional stimuli. So that led me down getting into neuroscience and studying the brain and the amygdala and what's going on, and talking to people first off when they come in about their breath, and saying to them, why don't you breathe? What do you think's going on? What do you have in your life? What triggers are there in your life that are causing you to armor and hold your breath? And then telling them that it's not a bad thing, that it's a normal thing, because our brain is still very similar to our animal ancestors, not necessarily monkeys, right? And what's going on, and that's just normal reactions that all of our bodies have and do, and learning to understand and embrace them and know the body. And then that goes for performing as well, because people often have a fight or flight experience, I call it, I call it an autonomic nervous system experience they may have before they perform. So if they get to know it, they can just say, hey, there's my autonomic nervous system experience. It's okay, monkey. We can, I'll give you an ice cream afterwards and let's go perform. So with all of that, that made me say, all right, well, what can I do about all this armor that is on people's bodies? What can I do about that? Yoga. We can open up the body with yoga. And what if they make sound? So I don't just do yoga without sound. I do yoga with primal sound. Basically looking for where is that original authentic voice that they had as a toddler that is loud and full and sustains well and the breath is really free. Where's that voice? And that's what got me into exploring all these different yoga poses to open up all the muscles that are related to phonation. The psoas muscle is an important muscle, which we don't think about, but that's important for the voice to be open because it does connect to the diaphragm in the back. And the psoas muscle is a major fight or flight muscle. So we don't think about that, but every time we do, it shortens. So we need to keep elongating that psoas, which will also help our breath and our voice. So I started going down and exploring all of these connections of things that we could do with yoga that would free the breath and the voice, break down the body armor on the body, get the body free from encumbrances that are hindering the vocal expression in some way, right? So, and then that led me to racking, which I completely invented one day. And I think I mentioned that went to the Tower of London. And on the Tower of London, there you go to the torture chamber, and there's this torture device called the rack. And I'd been a tourist all day, and I was thinking, oh my God, if I could just get stretched out a little bit, I feel like my body's being compressed by gravity. So if somebody could just put me on the rack and just pull it a little bit, right? Just stretch me a little bit and it would feel so good. And that's how I came up with racking.
That's
so
awesome.
I probably talked a lot about that subject, but it gave you an idea of how this all happened.
Well, it's great. And I mean, that's, you talk about the primal voices when I'm sitting there pinned up against the brick wall in Seattle and trying to unleash the primal voice and just realizing like how much blockage I had. I mean, we've been sitting for days,
Yeah.
all over the town. And she's like, just let your voice out. I'm going, no, I'm not. I can't. And the more that we pulled and unlocked stuff to feel that release, it was fascinating. It was interesting to feel it just like go a little bit and how much of a struggle it was, even when you sit there and you realize, yeah, I am doing that, what she's saying, why, and, playing with it. So it's first-hand experience in it. It's definitely fascinating.
It's so great. It's so great to hear you say, just going back to a few points, that singing saved your life, right? Just to give it that. I mean, I personally think everyone should sing. Everyone on the planet should sing. But some of the benefits you mentioned about students that come to you for improving their voice, and then you help their speaking voice, and then you help their breathing. It made me remember through my own journey and through several of the students that I have that I work with, that yes, your breathing improves, and a lot of us we lock and we hold our breath and we don't even realize it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of those important benefits that we can't just quickly drive by, Matt, but just that is such a great benefit that it improves everything about your whole body, your whole experience, by developing the organs and your intimacy or your relationship or your understanding of what it's like to improve those and to have them be flexible and let go and to have that release, because it's important to have that if you want a real free voice, that you actually confront some of those things or become aware of what could be blocking you don't even know. So that's great.
And I think, Heather, don't you in the book talk, I can't remember the right terminology necessarily, but I think you call it like emotional bracing. I think you talk about bracing for a car accident when we seize up, and that there's an emotional component to that as well, right?
There is, yeah. So it's physical things like driving, you'll get nervous. But if somebody, for example, just gets in your space too close, and that's how men start fights with each other, right? A man will step into your private space. And then I've watched men do this. I do this exercise in class, usually first day, where I have everybody, they have to say hello to each other uncomfortably close. And what will happen is that everybody will have some sort of autonomic nervous system experience. The men tend to puff up their chests when they get really close to each other. They don't even know they do it, but they puff up their chests, and everything gets kind of ready to go here for a punch if necessary, or a block, right? Some people laugh. Some people, their stomach, they'll tense their stomach. So we have all of these areas in the body that we can tense up. Fight or flight muscles. The first fight or flight muscle is the jaw. So that's why there's so much jaw tension in the world, because this is the strongest muscle in the body, and its job is to bite, right? And we don't realize it, but any kind of emotional stress or physical stress will make us tighten our jaw muscle. And then the next group of muscles are these muscles, right? The muscles to get the arms ready to punch or run. That's why we get a lot of tight shoulders. And you leave your house in the morning with no tension in your body, hopefully. And then halfway through the day, you may notice, halfway through the day, you may notice all of a sudden your shoulders are rising, right?
It's fun you're talking about when they come close to each other. I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and my 3-year-old's going through his aggressive phase right now. So when you talked about him seeing how close they can get and watching things go up, yeah, that's how I started.
Oh, okay. Okay. Trying to separate them. So not so relaxing.
Right. It's funny to like watch this instinct going. It's like, we're not raising you to do this. But like when they get too close and to watch what goes on, you're like, man. And it's interesting to hear you talking about that as the fight or flight and how they tense up. So yes, that ends up tense right there and there on the drive. But that's interesting.
And then the abdominal area, we'll tighten that because that if an animal is going to bite you, it's going to go for your abdominal area or your neck. So we'll tighten the neck, which is the throat, right? We'll tighten our throat, or we'll tighten our abdominal area. And a lot of people have digestive issues. Oh my God, there's so many people with digestive issues. And then the psoas muscle in the legs is the major muscle that connects your legs actually to your torso, and that shortens to get your legs ready to run. So these muscles are firing all the time, and everybody will have a favorite muscle that tends to fire. And it's on and off all day long. So I like the first week with my classes, I have students 5 times a day. They just check their breath and their body bracing and see what's going on. And they'll come back and they'll say, oh my God, my boss walked by my desk and all of a sudden my stomach tightened and my shoulders tightened and I couldn't breathe for a few minutes. And then when he went to the other side and was gone, I relaxed. And this woman said, I had no idea I did that. And she quit. She actually quit her job because it was killing her health, she realized.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have one question on here. I think this is important just to grab real quick. Shayla asked this. She said, did you completely lose your voice? Unfortunately, she has cancer, mantle cell lymphoma, but so far only in blood and bone marrow. But recently I've had problems with my voice, only low end voice, but also strange feeling in my chest, throat. And when I go to sing low end, no sound.
Well,
how do they find my voice? I don't know if you have any.
I had lymphoma too. I had lymphoma, and she should probably just have them check out because we have major lymph nodes in this part of our body, in our chest, and the laryngeal nerve runs right through there. So she should have that checked out.
Yeah.
Because she may have some swelling in there and some of the lymph nodes that are hitting on her laryngeal nerve, the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So I would check that out and get well.
Yes. Good luck, Shayla. I know my mom's a cancer survivor and also in lots of our families. So
I'm two-time cancer survivor.
Good. Fighters.
Wow, that's amazing.
So let's talk. We can get into this, and I know you do have some slides you kicked over. If you want me to pull those up, just let me know. But let's talk about like how we apply some of this stuff.
Okay, so this is the perfect place. Actually, you've got. I was trying to use my pad here, but you've got my slideshow. The perfect place to start my slideshow is here, because how do you apply this to alignment? Because how I apply this to alignment is what I find is. Most people are over their computers too much. We're getting a lot of curved shoulders. We're getting a lot of slumped chests. One thing I'm going to have you guys do right now, which anybody who's watching should do, is this is called the Bruger's method, where you're just going to make hitchhiker thumbs, put your arms parallel, and then you're going to open your arms sideways. Yeah, keep your elbows to your side. You'll feel your shoulder blades go down your back. Drop these, but all of a sudden your chest is high, and then just straighten your arms right there. Just straighten out your arms. No, not up. Don't lift your elbows. Keep your elbows where they were, and now straighten your arms. Straighten your arms.
Down.
Down.
Oh, down. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm pretending to be a viewer of trying to follow instructions. Okay, down.
Yeah. So you're here. Let me get the window. You're here, then you open, and then I'm not going to move my elbows. I'm just going to straighten out and keep my elbows back.
Oh, excuse
me. Keep my thumbs back. My elbows will be rolled a little back, and you'll feel your shoulders roll back.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very simple, right? I have my students do this every day that I have them. And I had one who was so slumped chest the beginning of a semester. He was like this, and he was actually having respiratory problems. He's been doing that every day, and his posture is perfect now.
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm falling in. That today's my big 8 hours at the computer, 10 hours.
Yeah.
The computer, like, you're hunching over, leaning in.
And you can do it seated. You can do it seated too, but you want to do that to your body every couple of hours if you're on the computer. Very easy. Because we have to keep our abdominal area free for the diaphragm to lower. So for singing, it's great because we need to actually roll our scapula inward a little bit. Keep our rhomboids strong as singers. Okay, so pop through a little bit here through my slideshow. And here's a wonderful picture of the idea of body bracing. And it's actually believed in somatic body work that you see the bottom and then the belts go higher and higher and higher and then to the throat. As we get older, we get more belts and they go higher and higher. And I just love that photo. That's just a little picture, face got cut off, but a little picture about mindfulness is really an important part. So we're creating mindfulness by having people become aware of their body armor and their breath and not judging themselves for it. It's not bad. Your body armor is there to protect you. So it's a protective mechanism, but we need to be aware of it because it changes our breath since most of the time we're not consciously breathing. Most of the time we're breathing autonomically. Okay, so pop in. So the whole body is actually covered in a stocking of myofascia. Myofascia is the connective tissue that runs from muscle to muscle covers every muscle, every organ, every bone in the body. And one thing about your whole body and your body alignment is that it actually starts in your feet. So we need to actually stand well on our feet. And this is an osteopath that works with me, she was doing a whole explanation on myofascia about pay attention to your feet when you're standing. Are your ankles rolled in? Are they rolled out? Right? So, and the fascia, as we get older, our myofascia hardens into certain shapes. You'll see people as they get older that they're really hunched over sometimes, and the body is stuck that way because the fascia is hardened there. Fascia can harden after surgery. Any kind of surgery, your fascia can harden in an area. So if you have had, let's say, shoulder surgery, that can affect your respiration. You don't realize it, so you have to get that shoulder up and open and breath into that area again. So that's basically my I put her there for a little talk about myofascia. Now go to the next slide.
Great. One quick question too, just to make sure we touch this. Just to clarify on that, with the Bruger stretch.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was asking, do you allow the hands to rotate after lowering the arms?
Rotate backwards, yes.
So back like.
So you've got hitchhiker thumbs. Yep. Right to the side, and then your arms they'll roll back. It'll be like they don't hitchhike anymore, but in the 70s when I was a kid, we hitchhiked everywhere. It'd be like that, and then you can roll your thumb back, but your arms just down, and you have a little space underneath your armpits.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel the stretch when it turns out like that.
Yeah, it's so simple too.
Yeah, good. All right, so the next slide.
Next slide. Okay, so this is I can't believe his name's Christopher. I can't believe I can't remember his last name, but he's with the London Opera, and he was doing an opera here in Los Angeles at the LA Opera, and he came to one of my workshops the same day of his performance, and everybody said, "What? What are you doing?" Well, I do these exercises with yoga straps. They're actually physical therapy exercises. You put this around the base of your rib cage, and then you pull up, and it lifts your whole rib cage up and out of your hips, and you have this sense of opening to your lungs that you've never had before. He said that he had the most breath and voice that he ever had doing this exercise, and he said that night it was the best he ever sang in the opera, which was really cool. So I actually start to work on their body alignment. That's the first thing. So I have yoga therapy strap exercises, and then if you flip to the next one, we do stretches at the wall to open up the shoulder girdle. These are all yoga stretches. They feel amazing. You can do them against a wall, or you can actually go to a door, and if you just put your arm on the outside of a door and step through and let your body rotate, but you're stepping through and your shoulders opening. These shoulder openers are really important to do. We should be doing them every day, especially during Zoom land. Okay, you can flip to the next slide. Neck stretches, right? So a neck stretch with the arm behind. Oh my God. I mean, if you guys do that right now, I'm gonna put one hand gently on your head. Yeah, and then the other one wrap around just like she's doing, around the back. And then just let your head fall for a minute. And breathe.
Yeah, that's the thing I always forget.
I stopped breathing for a minute.
I always forget to breathe.
Yep. And then come up and do the other side. Right? Everyday practice it should be.
Now, are these stretches in the book?
A lot of them are, but I'm working on my second book, which is all my exercises.
Awesome. When's
It's going
that?
to be oh my God, I've got 155 pages done, and I still have more exercises to put.
That's exciting, though, to get that much content. That would be great.
I'm really excited, yeah, because this is really developed. So I work in theater programs. I don't work so much in singing schools. I usually teach voice for actors in acting programs. And what's fun about that is in the acting world, you can do anything. Actors will do anything. I can do a whole class of vocal yoga, and the school loves it. But I feel that theater departments and singing music departments need to merge a lot more, because there's really exciting stuff happening in theater departments. And we use a lot of body work with sound, which is important. Flip to the next one. I also do myofascial release work. So this is great. You just put one hand on your neck, put the other hand on top, and you're not going to use this hand. This hand's just going to rest. The other hand, you're going to press gently and then just pull down. Relax your jaw, let your mouth be open a little bit. And the top hand's doing all the work, but you'll feel this really great feeling. And you want the skin to drag. So when you're doing myofascial release work, you actually want to be dragging the skin.
Now, when you do that, that's a great point to talk about, like dragging on the skin. If it's bothering somebody's skin, is it okay for them to use lotion while they do some of these things?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of hot here in LA today, so I don't need any lotion.
Yeah.
But you can do it without lotion. Doesn't it feel awesome? I mean, just taking your hand here and pressing, it's hello.
Yeah.
What's going on with these muscles? And we need to have all these muscles released, right? So this is a nice thing to do before laryngeal massage.
Well,
You don't even have.
one of the things that you talk about in your book is about paying special attention to the hyoid bone. And
Yeah.
all these connection points. And it was really well said the way that you worded it, where it's like, yeah, just well, pieced together about all those interconnections, because we all think about those, but to think about like getting that guy to move, you're getting the stuff to let go surrounding it, because that is where so many problems creep up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we've lost our other guy here. He's going to zone out.
I'm like, oh, that's good. That's the
Isn't that good? Okay, so I teach breathing with people on their hands and knees a lot. So now I'm moving into breathing. The reason why is, well, the abdominal muscles are muscles of exhalation, but they're also muscles of structural support. So when people are upright, they may not be able to release their abdominal muscles. People hold a lot of tension in their solar plexus area. And then just with the idea of people, I mean, not wanting to let their abs out, right? A lot of people just have their abs pulled in so much. And then you get all the upper chest breathers. If you put them on their hands and knees, belly just falls to the floor. And they can notice, wow, what muscles can just nicely release. And then if I make any sound, what happens to my abs? And I use animal sounds a lot. So talking about abdominal support or being aware of what are the abdominal muscles. I don't start with, I'll start first with breath, and then I'll play around with animal sounds, because for some reason, animal sounds naturally contract muscles of support. And you don't even have to think about it. Like if you guys do, if everybody does a dog bark, and dogs do not bark in open vowels, so they don't go, they don't do that. They usually do woof, right? Woof. So everybody just pretend you're a dog and bark. Woof, woof, woof. You feel your abs kick in, right?
Yeah.
Woof, woof, right away they kick in. If you're a chicken, woof, feed chickens, you guys.
Right, please count.
Abs just kick in. Crows, caw, caw.
It's right away.
Right away, your abs kick in. So it gives people an opportunity to have an interesting exploration of the abdominal muscles. And we go through a whole bunch of different things. And then I don't know if you're familiar with the accent method.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
A little bit? Okay, so the accent method is a speech therapy method that originated in Scandinavia. And it's not used much in the US, but it's used in the UK and in Australia quite a bit. And it's for people who tend to speak from the throat and they don't engage any abdominal support for speech. So it uses consonants. It's a lot of W's. What, what. Try that, everybody.
What.
To get people to naturally engage abdominal muscles. So I actually use, when I'm teaching people to find the sensation of abdominal engagement, I use my own version of the accent method, which starts with animal sounds and then moves into crowing, and then we'll go into consonants. And interestingly enough, in the old Italian books, they talk about using Fs. They talk about using Fs and other consonants. Imagine you're blowing out a candle with Fs to have people become aware of abdominal support. So I love that when I found that in the old Italian books. Let's move on to the next slide.
Great. Oh, sorry, there we go.
Okay, so here they're all doing a little bit of what's called Salabhasana, locust pose, and I have them make sound. And because they're right on their abs, the sound comes out of the core of the body as opposed to the throat. Flip to the next one. This is the best pose to play with your voice. If you want to teach breathing, because the belly will fall to the ground, and then connecting the voice to the core of the body, have them in Cobra. This is called Cobra. This is just great. And they were singing in this pose, actually. One of the students was leading a mini class, and she had them all up in Cobra. And this is a modified Cobra. This is what's called a yoga therapy Cobra for anybody out there who is a yogi. We have our hands, instead of just right under the shoulders where you can't get very high, we've moved them out in more of a V. What would this be? Like a V shape. On the mat, and then you're quite comfortable. You can hang out there for quite a while. It's not strenuous.
I'm looking at the jaws too, talking about like you're singing, I'm just seeing like I guess this probably gets you some jaw release as well as your.
It does, yeah, because of if you let the gravity, just lets the jaw hang. Yeah. Flip to the next one. Okay, so this woman is in what's called Sphinx Pose, or low Cobra, and I do with actually this is assisted Cobra. This is really fun. So someone is sitting on her feet. Her feet are up, and someone's sitting on her feet, and she's making sound, and I'm just checking if there's any tension on her. In her larynx. She was having a little bit of a tight sound. And if I just put my hand on someone's I sometimes will do a very gentle movement or check the hyoid bone for tension, and then it just frees up their voice and it flies out of their body. The next slide, here's the one I was talking about. This is actually assisted bow. So she's holding on to her ankles, and someone's sitting on her, and it's really comfortable. The other person's holding her up, and in that posture, there's absolutely no way that you cannot let your voice just flow out from the depths of your being. There's just,
and I don't know if I can get into that, but that seems like a life goal.
Next week. We're gonna read the book this week, Matt, and you have to do it. You have to show us that pose next week.
I don't know if anybody get into that, but I mean but I see what I mean. That definitely is disengaging that abdominal wall, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, completely, and the voice just you cannot withhold the voice. And I just use a lot of primal sounds, and then once they feel free with primal voices, they can sing. If someone can't call out or can't yell, they can't really sing. How are they going to belt? How are they going to sing opera if they can't just not have a nice full primal voice come out of them? So she actually was having a great time. She is a yoga teacher, so that's why it's such a incredibly perfect version of the pose.
Yeah, mine would be.
I have modifications.
Good, because I would need them very much.
Keep going. We better.
6 foot 4 is a lot of body to move around.
Okay, flip to the next slide. I hear you say I'm teaching at the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, and they're all doing the same thing. And you'll see some different versions. It's actually like you don't have to come that high. And somebody's holding you, so it's not that hard.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. If they're holding you up.
Yeah, they're holding you up. Flip to the next one. It's super fun to sing in squat pose. Squat pose is where anybody who's going to sing the blues or needs to get into the deeper part of their registers, if you breathe in squat pose, your breath goes all the way down your back to your butt. And literally when you use your voice, you just feel it coming from your butt, really. Like the whole voice just comes up.
It's really finding that pelvic floor connection then through this.
Absolutely, yeah. Your whole core connects, yeah. Next slide. Okay, now we're getting into the psoas muscle. And the psoas muscle, there is no way, and I have degrees of psoas muscle stretches. I usually have people in the psoas muscle stretch do some sort of sound like they would if they were actually in pain, like, ow, oh, ow. And it comes really primal and really deep because that psoas muscle it's to get into it, it's a good pain. We don't go no bad pain, but there's a good pain to it, but it will make you make some sound, and that will be some gorgeous sounds.
Excess tension in our psoas muscles, correct?
So much tension, yeah, especially from sitting. Sitting shortens your psoas, and we're all sitting, so we need to lengthen it all the time. Yeah. I actually started to get a psoas injury almost from sitting so much, where I was having pain in your lower back is often caused by the psoas.
Yeah, and that definitely, it's interesting. My back pain goes away during summer break and winter break. And then as soon as we start going back to teaching, you hit the sitting more. I got to keep getting myself up and down because you're right. If you don't,
yeah,
it just piano and cruising along, man, that tightens up and it's rough.
It sure does. And you want to do some psoas stretches. They're really important because the psoas, okay, so here's a whole class doing a psoas stretch, but some of them have their tongues out going, the woman in the middle has her tongue out.
Okay.
Simone Suarez is her name. She's actually a big star in Mexico, television star. Ah, she's got her tongue out and just making some sound. Here's, this is a body worker, an acupuncturist who jumped in there and she's actually pressing on the psoas muscle. This is a standing psoas stretch.
Nice.
Keep going. This is psoas everything. That's me. I'm stretching everything. I've got my head against the wall. Arches are amazing because you cannot, in an arch, there's no way to not get the voice from deep down in the torso. Go ahead and flip. I also have a whole series of side stretches called the Warrior series. This is called Revolved Warrior. And in this pose, it really opens up your costal muscles and opens up your abdominal muscles on the side of the body. So, that's called the lateral line of fascia we're opening up. Flip to the next one. Tree pose is awesome to do. If they can get their arms up, you're lengthening. I have them lean against a wall so they can sound. So a lot of these things I have against a wall. So here they don't have to worry about balance as much and they can play with their voice. When your arms are up like that, you're lengthening up and opening up your whole rib cage. And then if you have the leg up to the side, you're getting some psoas stretch, but you're also, if you push your leg into your, trying to do it.
Do you have a sitting one?
Yeah. If you push your leg, if you actually push your leg, you can't see my legs, into your thigh, it actually engages the whole bottom of the torso. It engages the pelvic diaphragm, which is interesting, and it exerts some inter-abdominal pressure from deep. And it's really fun to do sounds like whoop. As you press in your leg, you'll feel the pelvic diaphragm engage and whoop, and then sound just shoots up high. And then here we're doing some standing arches with now low notes. Any kind of arch is great for low notes. So you wouldn't think so, but low notes are best. Any kind of arching will really get the deepness into the voice. And then bent over is better for high notes. You can flip to, that's in Hong Kong again. Now, this is dancing Shiva pose. And this looks really hard. She's got one arm on a block and she's leaning against a wall, but it's not.
Oh my gosh, I thought she was laying down on the ground, but that's...
No, she's against a wall. And the whole picture didn't quite fit into the pocket, but she has her arm is on the arm that's down is on a block, sideways on a block, and then her foot is on the ground, and she's leaning against a wall. And it's really awesome to sing in this pose. This is these two gals actually were playing with sending sound from one person to the other. And I actually just loved it. So I popped that in because there's so many things that students end up creating themselves in classes sometimes. This is downward dog, but assisted. So here's where we play for high notes. So if you're working with a soprano who needs to have that sense of pressure popping up into the head, and they won't get the high notes because they don't want to get the whoop, that pressure, you put them this way, and you actually have them sense sound coming from the tailbone all the way down through outside their head, and they end up hitting these amazing high notes. It's like the high notes just fall into gravity. And they're in a pose that somebody else is holding them in so we can hang out and play with their voice. Next, here's another one of those, another version. Super fun. I mean, you kind of don't want to sing any other way. Okay, now we're getting into racking. And this is such a fun photo because this is a Los Angeles high school choir festival. They have me in to do vocal yoga all the time. And these girls are holding onto his hips. He's in the chair rack, and this other kid is pulling him. And this feels amazing. What's happening is the muscles of the whole rib cage, all the costal muscles and the abdominal muscles get pulled open, and then you sing or make sound, and it feels amazing.
That's cool. Do the high school kids enjoy this?
Oh my God, they love it. They love it. They have such a blast. Here's Hong Kong, another version. They're holding his hips back. You want to be pulled so much that your butt will come off the floor. So somebody has to hold you against the wall. And the being pulled just feels phenomenal. Here's another version. I mean, they went wild in Hong Kong with this stuff. This was a course I did for all the local actors in Hong Kong, as well as the Hong Kong Academy.
That's great.
And they just, I mean, you can see how much they're pulling on this person, and the person's just like, more. This is the standing rack.
Yeah.
This is not against a wall. I usually do it against a wall, but she's making sound. And this is another time I was in Hong Kong with their students, and they're pulling her. And this is the original rack. This is my very first rack. I have a whole bunch of versions now, but that was the first one. Flip to the next.
Up that side ribcage area. I mean, when you did this to me and you had me stand up after doing one side, I was like, oh, let's do the other.
You feel altered. It's really, I always tell people, when you put the person, you always come in slowly after stretching with their limbs, and then hold them for a minute, because they're going to be spaced out. Something opens up in the body.
Yeah.
They were just going, here's Hong Kong again, where they're just going wild. Yeah. And you want more and more. I mean, now I created a floor rack, and the floor, because everybody has to get racked. I don't care what your size, shape, health, anything. Everybody I found can get floor racked if they can't get racked standing against a wall. And here they're doing a floor rack to someone.
And we had this is a good question that just came in, which is, how long will the impact of these exercises last after you leave the pose?
So people notice an immediate difference in their voice, and they last a long time, actually. Some of them they can do at home by themselves. Like we go through a whole bunch of different exercises. I have so many exercises, it's something like 36 exercises. So some they can do at home by themselves to maintain it, but I find it lasts a long time. And especially when people start getting aware of the body armor that they're putting on themselves daily, that starts going away too. The mindfulness of body armor, the mindfulness of breath. And then when they start to feel tense, we have exercises they can do at home.
That's awesome. Yeah, Melanie popped in too. She said, I love the feeling of the left-right difference after side bends. I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And good. All right, let's go on to the next slide here.
So at the end, we get to rest some. And this is legs up against the wall. This is an inversion, which is really good for your circulatory system in your body. Usually down in any rest poses, we just do some gentle humming. Humming is very nurturing. Or they can just rest and breathe, see how their body feels. And then, of course, child's pose is a resting pose in yoga. And it's also an amazing pose for back breathing, for opening up the back. And once again, bent over like that, I only use gentle humming usually. Okay. And sometimes, though, the awareness of humming from the tailbone all the way out to the crown of the head, up the spine, is really interesting. And then I always do some what I call Om choir at the end. And the circle I actually got from Dr. Gill and Johann Sundberg, where if you put a circle around here, you make the best Om you could possibly make. Om. It makes the best Om, so I let them play with that if they want to or not, throw in a little voice signs without them knowing it. And this is Om choir, and an Om choir, they just keep Oming, and they pick any kind of pitch that they want to pick. The high school students love this. They go nuts. And then they all listen to each other and they make harmonies. Somebody may jump on somebody else's note. Somebody may throw in a little dissonance. And it just turns into this whole Om choir that morphs and creates its own thing. So I always end with that, my workshops with that.
That's great.
And then this we don't even have time to get into, but I do tuning fork work. I use tuning forks on students, especially when talking about, I don't like to use the word placement, but the idea of where the sound should be resonating in the body, because you'll say to people, like maybe a big guy will come in and you'll say, well, don't you feel your chest vibrating? And they'll say to you, no, because they don't have a sensation of their body. So if I put a tuning fork on someone, on their chest, all the bones vibrate.
I heard it.
And they'll feel all the bones vibrating in their chest, and they'll say, oh my God, my chest is vibrating. So then I'll say, can you say the word ma? Ma. And join that tone, that vibration of your voice. Can you have it in there matching this tuning fork? And then can I take the tuning fork away and you still have that vibration happening? And it's often for a lot of students, it's the first time they felt their body vibrate with sound.
Tuning forks. I've never seen a tuning fork like that before. What is that a specific name type or?
Yes. So let's see. So this is C, which is 128, but the magic tuning fork frequency is actually C sharp, which is, I think 137.1. And that's the main, I use either C or C sharp. Indian music, the tablas are tuned to C sharp. So if I'm working with any Indian musicians, I would always use a C sharp. I have found of all the ones that I've used on people, C and C sharp are the ones that people have the most actual sensation of on their body. There's all these other ones, but these you feel the best.
That's great.
So you only need one.
Where do you get a tuning fork like that?
Actually on Amazon.
On Amazon, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of them come from Asia, and there's one brand that's not from Asia, but they're really good tuning forks, Omnivos. And then there's, gosh, I don't have all my tuning forks here, I just have one. I don't know what this company was from. You want to get a good one, but they don't necessarily have to be expensive. So I just found one that was around $10, and I wish I had thought to bring it out here.
One by that Subang.
That's the one. I love the Subangs.
Yeah, so but it's that style. You can definitely, do your related searches from there. But that's, oh yeah, they have all kinds in here.
I like Subang. It's the one it's like $10.99 or something.
Yeah, it's right around there. You know how it's not nice to jump.
Yeah, it's not expensive, and that particular brand is really good because sometimes you can get some really flimsy ones and they don't do anything, but the Subang is good. I bought a couple of those. I have a lot of them because I use them in classes. Flip to the next one. Now, if you want to really get California groovy, you take a crystal. And crystals are conductors, right? So if you put a tuning fork on a crystal, and she actually has an emerald on the end of her tuning fork, if you put that on a crystal, the vibration of the tuning fork spreads out all through the crystal. And then if the crystal is larger than the tuning fork, that larger mass will vibrate on your head. In this case, it's a head.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. I know you sent over a video on racking. Should we watch that?
Oh, sure. Do we have time?
We do, and then we probably will wrap it up here. But this is absolutely fascinating. Great stuff. Let's pull up the racking video.
So this was actually what this video is it's my last teacher certification that I just did online, which was the first time doing it online. So it was quite interesting. So I have a couple students demonstrating, the two young ladies, and then the men that you see are in Belgium.
Wow.
So they're doing the course online.
Cool. Let's check it out.
Good. Now go as long as you can. Good. How'd that feel? Yeah. Yeah.
Come away, fellow sailors, come away, your rank has been waiting. Time and time will admit you late. Expose a short leave of your nymphs on the shore, and silence their mourning with vows of returning, while never intending to visit them more. No, never intending to visit them more. No, never intending to visit them more.
Cool. Yeah.
Nice.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, that's great. I was just, while we were watching the video, I peeked over your website. Now, where can we get, so you have a book, do you have videos we can watch, or how do we, I guess, what are some of the ways we can learn more about all the things you teach?
Well, I'm going to start to put up some videos. And then mostly I do workshops. Pre-COVID, I did a lot of live workshops. And then now I just finished another teacher certification, and I get a lot of different sorts of people for teacher certification. I get a lot of singing teachers. I get theater voice teachers. I get yogis. I get body workers, people who want to just be involved in vocal yoga. And my yoga teachers, actually, once they've done vocal yoga, they never want to do yoga without the voice, because they feel it's so transformational. So now that we're in a COVID world, I just got a group of teachers certified, and now I have some time, and I've got a lot of footage, and we're going to start making some online courses and things of that nature, and get it out there more in an online way.
Great.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time when you're teaching full-time too, because I have a very busy private studio, and then I'm also at Arizona State, which I adore, though. I love those kids. They're great. But yeah, my first book is out on Amazon. I have 2 vocal exercise CDs. I have a breathing one, and I have one called Vocal Yoga Singing Exercises, and then Vocal Yoga Breathing Exercises. Those are both on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and iTunes for digital download. And then the book is on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And I have a PDF version you can download straight from my website if you want a digital version of my book. And then the second book I'm really working hard to finish. And yeah, come back to my website. Check it out. Check out my blogging. And this has been so much fun, you guys.
Thank you. It's been
Really.
learning lots of new stuff, which is always exciting to me. It's always fun to find new things to go.
Don't you think that, I mean, I think all singers should be just really in their bodies and becoming more aware of their bodies and stuff. Because especially in the classical world, that was something I found, that a lot of classical singers were pretty detached from their bodies.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, obviously we all share in the human experience, but everyone's experience is a little bit different. And
Yeah.
so there's many ways, to come into contact with the truth and to experience things. But I do think as you're going through as a singer on your journey, you definitely can't get away from your body. That is the instrument. And so if
Exactly.
you don't become more in tune with that, and I think you can't experiment enough. So definitely it looks like your practice and your work definitely gives many students many different opportunities, many different poses, many different ways to figure out what kind of works for them. So I think it's great.
Yeah,
And one thing I was going to say, if you have a group of students that come in and can't focus after lunch, put them in tree pose. Because to balance, they have to find what's called a dristi, a point on the wall, and focus. And when I was teaching at USC, my students would come in and they'd say, "Can we do tree pose? I'm all over the place."
cool.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we got lots
Yeah.
of views in here. People saying that they love this. They want to try this too. Edrine, hi. Stop by. Just going to be on the show here in a couple weeks. But lots of great shout outs, lots of interesting information. So, if you're just stopping by, be sure to go on over to her website, which is vocalyoga.com. Check this out. If you didn't get to be with us from the top of the show, don't worry. The show is going to be available. It usually pops up in about 10 to 15 minutes after we hit stop here. And it'll be available for replay on the voicelessons.com Facebook page. So, Heather, thank you so much for being here this evening. It's really been wonderful. And
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to hang with you guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you and Mike both out there in LA, and with the fires, it's scary. My brother got real close to the big fire in Colorado in Fort Collins. They got 10 inches of snow that dropped down, which helped them, but we're not looking at that as an option. So I'm feeling we don't deal with that as much on the West Coast, but I know you guys are getting hammered out there. So
Yeah, we've had the West Coast has been crazy this year.
all right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And next week, be sure to tune in. We have another special guest. We're going to be talking with Dr. Elizabeth Benson, who recently wrote a book about training contemporary commercial music singers. She did some research where she did surveys to find out, to pull up, I think it was like 40 names of teachers who are doing a lot of good work in the CCM world. And then she went through and interviewed them and gives you a lot of comparative voice pedagogy. It's going to be a great talk, a lot of great people in this book. And I'm excited to learn more about it. So be sure to mark your calendars to tune in next Thursday night, 7 p.m., same place, with another talk. And until then, have a great week of singing. You've got plenty of content to go play with now from Heather. So, I'll be getting stretched, racked, and all those things in whatever ways I can figure out on my own, because I definitely realize some shortcomings I need to address. So thank you for enlightening us all. And everyone have a great week, and we'll see you back here next Thursday night. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, Heather.